Hey, my name is Bhex. So I have to apologize for the first about 10 minutes of this video. It's going to have slightly subpar audio quality because I have been having troubles with my microphone up until about 5 minutes ago when I ran to Guitar Center to get some new cables. So thank you for bearing with me. On with the show.
Hey, my name is Bhex. Have you ever wished Minecraft was more of a survival experience? Well, this is the Datapack for you. I mean, true survival. It is the only thing to do in this game. At least, at the moment, I do plan on adding much more content. So, how does this Datapack work? Let me show you. So when you spawn in a completely random location, and it will be a random location every time you respawn. It is incredibly unlikely that you will ever find a previous location that you were at when you died. So you'll notice you can't break blocks. So what can you do? You can left-click leaves to look through them for sticks, saplings, and apples. You can also left-click on logs to scrape some bark off of them with your hands. And just to know, each leaf block can only be looked through once. So once you click on a leaf block, you will not be able to click on it again. You can craft any saplings that you've obtained into sticks. Sticks can be crafted into stick bundles. Once you get plenty of sticks, you can craft your stick bundles into a campfire. Campfires will be useful once night falls, which it's looking like will be soon. This is perfect. Gravel. Gravel is your key to the one thing you can use to make tools in this game, flint. So all you have to do is punch the gravel, and you have a chance of getting flint. And just like leaves, each block of gravel can only be looked through once. Be careful not to get trapped in any holes like this because you will soft lock yourself. You cannot get out. Once you have flint, you can craft it into a flint knife, which currently does not do anything, but I'll program its utility later on in this video. So until night falls, you just want to collect as many sticks as you possibly can. Oh, there we go. It's getting nighttime. It gets dark fast. Let's set up the campfire. Once you have your campfire, you can place it down, and then you can place a tree bark on top of it, and then right-click it with a stick to light it. And you'll want to stay close to this for most of the night. Now, you might be thinking, Bhex, this feels awfully similar to that survival horror data pack that you posted about a year ago. And to that, I would say, you're right. This is a copy of that data pack, except I accidentally deleted all of the code from that data pack, and so I've had to do everything from the ground up, except the textures, thankfully. But because of that, I've made a few improvements, and I would like to show them off to you. So all of this is built inside my mod-sized data pack engine, Bone MSD. This hasn't been released yet. I'm still working on it, and I'm still working on getting some generators made so that you can automatically generate necessary files in the data pack. But if we go inside here, inside the function tab, we have this main function. And inside that main function, we run the big scary main function, which is the name of this data pack. And I just want to point out as we go through this code that this code is specifically meant for single player. This is a single player data pack, and none of this code is meant to be multiplayer compatible. All right. So at the player, we run this player tick command. We also run a command for an eyeline entity, which I'll talk about in a second. We also have this item tick command, and we have this command that runs all the campfires. We also have commands that run for every bee and every wolf in the world. We have a command that kills every XP orb, and we have a command that tracks the time into a scoreboard. Now, inside the player tick command, we run this on respawn command, which just teleports you from your respawn location into the same location in a dimension which is entirely forest biome. Then there's a command which anchors the eyeline entity to you, which I will talk about in a moment. And then there are a couple commands which unload the chunks around you and then force load the chunk that you're in. This is just to help the respawn command work. Then there's a command which just constantly checks if you are underground. And then there's a command which at midnight in game time will check if you're underground, and if you're not underground and you are not within 9 blocks of a lit campfire, then an Enderman will summon 15 blocks behind you. So that's the player tick command. So what is this eyeline entity that I've been talking about? Well, if I turn on hitboxes, you will see this little outline that is always in front of me. What is this? This is an interaction entity that is constantly being tracked to right in front of the player. And I do this to track when the player left and right clicks. For instance, when a player left clicks, we send a raycast from the player's eyes. If that raycast collides with a lit campfire, it will extend the lifespan of the campfire and play a little sizzling sound. So how does this interaction system work exactly? Well, let me break this down. So this is the eyeline tick command. This is what the interaction entity runs every tick. If the interaction entity has an interaction, then it will tag the nearest player as gather, and then it will raycast, and then it will remove its interaction data. And the same goes for attack. It will add the tag hit to the player, it will run a raycast, and then it will remove its attack data, and then it will remove the hit and gather tags from the nearest player so that nothing goes wrong the next tick. And if the player is holding an apple, which is the only food source in the game, then it will teleport itself 5 blocks down. That's because if we didn't have this, and we reload and we give ourselves the hunger effect, if we didn't have that command that teleports the interaction 5 blocks down, we would not be able to eat food. So by re-enabling this command, we move the interaction out of the player's way and the player can eat. So what goes on in this raycast command? Inside this actions folder, we have the raycast trigger, which 5 blocks in front of the player summons a marker entity called stopcast, and then it runs the raycast loop function, and then once that's done, 5 blocks ahead, it will kill the stopcast entity that we created. And what the stopcast entity does is, because the raycast would infinitely march if it never hit a block, for instance, if the player were to look straight up, in order to save on the lag and it infinitely marching into the sky, we check if the raycast collides with this stopcast entity, and if it collides, then it stops the raycast. So inside this raycast loop command, if we do not have the tag, which we're just using hit block as our stop tag. So if it does not have the stop tag and the block is not a block that can be cast through, which in our pack is air, tall grass, short grass, and leaf litter, then we will add the hit block command, which will stop the cast. And then we have a command that if we hit the stop cast entity, then we also add the stop command. Then we also add the stop tag. Finally, if we do not have the stop tag, then 0.01 blocks in front of us, we will run this whole function again. Then if we get the stop tag, then we will run a function which defines what to do based on which block we have collided with, and then it will kill the stopcast entity. There are 2 of these commands just to be safe, and then we will remove the stop tag. And so inside this define function, this is where we define our hit and gather actions. So our simplest one right here is if we have the tag of hit, which means we left click, and the block that our raycast collided with is a campfire, then we run the function that is supposed to run when we hit a campfire. Sounds basic enough, right? Then we have if we left clicked and our raycast collides with a log and it is not a stripped log, then we will run the function that runs when we hit a log. And we have a bunch of these that define, for instance, if we have the gather tag, which means we right clicked and we are holding a campfire and the block we collided with is not water, then we will run the function which runs when we right click with a campfire in our hands. And so in here we just have these gather and hit functions. Oh, our campfire died out. let's pick it up and let's get going. It's daytime anyway. That felt a lot less cinematic with a giant hitbox hovering in my face. So, while we're breaking down the wall and I'm showing how this pack works behind the scenes, I want to show you guys something else. So I've been thinking about a thirst mechanic. Now, how would this thirst mechanic work? Well, let me show you. So I have replaced the XP bar and have decided to start using it as a thirst meter. Now, the thirst meter works like your health and hunger. It has 20 levels. The thirst meter goes down 1 level every so often, and you can refill it by right-clicking on some water. That's it. That's it. So yeah, leave in the comments what you think of the thirst mechanic, and I will go by that, because I ran a survey in my Discord server, but I didn't really get any conclusive answers from that. Anyway, if you've played for like 15 minutes and you've managed to avoid wolves and wasps for at least one night, you probably have a surplus of sticks. And you might be wondering, what do I do with them? With all those bundles of sticks, you can craft 4 campfires, which you can craft into a raft. Hold on, let me justify this. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Okay, so if you find a large body of water that you need to cross, you can right-click to place down your raft, and then right away. Now, I will warn you guys, you cannot pick your raft back up. It's just not something I added. It's not something I plan to add. It's a nice little bit of balancing. So, once you land, you can't pick your boat back up. If you find it again, you can get back in it and keep riding it, but it's there. I do want to do something with these fallen trees, especially these stumps that generate with vines on them, like these little rotted or dead stumps. Oh, it got dark fast. I need a campfire. I'm in danger.
If you want to get food that's not apples, how are you going to go about doing that? That is a fantastic question. We've added this flint knife earlier. It's crafted with just a stick and a piece of flint. And earlier in the video, I ran into a conundrum where it simply just didn't do anything. That was the conundrum. So while I was trying to program the flint knife, I ran into an issue where the raycasting just would not collide with an entity, and even if it did, it wouldn't properly execute the commands. So I have reached a solution for this, and it's very similar to the food solution. If I turn on hitboxes and I select food, the tracker entity goes away. Similarly, if I hold the flint knife, the tracker entity also goes away. However, when we're holding food, we cannot hit anything with that food. Oh my gosh. Whereas if we're holding the flint knife, we can hit things with the flint knife. Like this bee that has been absolutely terrorizing me for the last ever. And this is done using attributes. It's just that whenever a player is holding a flint knife, their entity interaction range is set to 5 blocks, and the eyeline entity is teleported away from the player, and when they're not holding a flint knife, then their reach is set back to 0 blocks. This also means that while you're holding a knife, you cannot search for materials. Similarly to when you are holding food, you are not able to search for materials. Eating makes you vulnerable. So you may be thinking, I have some raw meat now, how am I gonna cook that? Well, you're just gonna place down a campfire, and you're gonna go ahead and light that bad boy up. Next, you're just gonna take your raw meat and right-click on the campfire, and it will add it to the campfire. Now, I'm thinking about maybe adding a ranged attack. Say for instance, a slingshot, or just some kind of general sling, because I don't want to just create a hostile world where the player just dies. I do want survival to be a constant chance. I actually want to talk about this for a second. An issue I find with a lot of horror mods in Minecraft that I'm going to try to avoid with this data pack is the issue of death being inevitable. Eventually, you're gonna find some kind of dweller that is impossible to escape. You're gonna get trapped in some kind of impossible scenario, or there's gonna be some guy chasing you that you're not gonna be able to escape, because that's just how the mod is made, and this guy is impossible to kill and impossible to avoid. And I hate that, because if you know you're gonna die the second you see the monster, then you might as well give up at that moment. It makes the game no longer fun. The fun and thrill in a survival and horror game, at least to me, and some may disagree with me on this, understandably, is being able to escape. See, a greater sense of defeat comes from when you know that your death was a result of your own mistakes somewhere along the line, and that death feels a lot less satisfactory and actually a lot more annoying when you know that there was just no way to avoid it at all. And likewise, there is an additional feeling of satisfaction that comes when you get out of that dangerous situation, when you are able to avoid the scare and escape imminent death. And if that's not a possibility, then where is the fun in the pack, in my opinion? So, that being said, I think it might be time to work on some enemies. Alright, so I have done some programming. A lot of programming. Let's feed this fire so it doesn't die out. So now, if I look behind me for a brief moment, you will see... Did you catch it? Here, let me do it again. Bam. Did you catch it that time? Let me turn it to daytime and set the tick rate to lower, okay? And now if I turn around, did you see it that time? I have finally devised code which can tell when an entity is within view of the player. Now, it is hard-coded to work for a field of view of 70, but if there is enough demand for it by people with other field of view playstyles, then I will add an option to the data pack to adjust this for your field of view. Now, what is this possibly useful for? Well, that's easy. And this is the first step to the first monster that I want to add to this data pack. Oh, I'm just walking through the woods at night. No campfire. Oh no. What was that sound? Oh, jeez. Okay, so to explain that really quick, I'm gonna set the time today. Hold on. Much better. Okay. So, if you are not within 9 blocks of a campfire at midnight, then an Enderman will spawn behind you. And as long as you don't look at the Enderman and you just run, then you are fine. Now, if you turn around and look at the Enderman, obviously it won't attack you. I mean, I've shown you everything so far. Then a random amount of time later, you will randomly hear an Enderman behind you again. Don't worry, it's only stalking you. Once you've seen it twice, you really want to make sure that you hear it the next time, because you don't want to look at it. Because the next time you look at it, it gets hostile. And you might be thinking, okay, I'll hide under a tree. Nope, they can break blocks. So yeah, your options are either avoid the Enderman or run. Run as fast as you possibly can. But as long as you're within 9 blocks of a campfire when midnight hits, you're gonna be fine. So, if you want to play this data pack, then you can, actually. I will be releasing the beta versions of this for free in my Discord server. All you have to do is join, and there will be a dedicated download channel for this data pack. And with that all being said and done, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. My name is Bhex. Thanks for watching, and as always, thanks for watching. Alright, bye.